Welcome to the InfoMullet YouTube channel. If you enjoy this content, please like or share. And if you'd like to support the InfoMullet by becoming a mulleteer, visit us on Patreon. We appreciate your support. Now, one of the questions that came over the week is a lot of people were like, well, why don't they just vote them out? Why do the people tolerate this intolerable injustice if it's a municipal city? And so we have the data from the elections that show why this is not as easy as it may seem, right? So this looks at turnout in Ferguson, municipal elections, and it's comparing national elections and municipal elections. And what's important to understand is that probably 80 to 100 years ago, there was a big progressive movement in the country to separate municipal election days from national election days. The theory at the time is you don't want the passions of a national presidential election to muck with good local voting. You want to have, so the actual municipal elections are held off cycle from the national elections, and I think it's like April for Ferguson. Well, you can see here how this influences a population that is majority black. The turnout rates are very, very different. Now, obviously, turnouts that are not on national election days are going to be lower in general, but you see here the November election, the 2012 November election, presidential election, 54% turnout from African Americans, 55% whites, fairly close. You could probably account for some. And again, this isn't looking into well-discussed voter suppression tactics and all that, like polling stations. This is looking at when the election itself is scheduled. But look at the municipality elections. 17% whites and 6% African Americans. Both are down a lot, but the white representation is almost twice. And this is why, for a city that was majority black, there were no black city councilors. There was no black representation in the municipal offices while this is going on. And this really, when you talk about the racial composition of votes, it really shows the difference. When you look at everyone who voted in the 2012 election, 71% were African American, 28% were whites. But when it comes to municipal, it's flipped. And all of a sudden, a city that's a majority of a community of color becomes, in effect, a majority of a minority, which in this case were the whites, and they're voting for these policies. So, and there's a whole host more of this. If you have a felony in Missouri, you can't vote. Well, if you didn't pick up your trash or didn't do your leaves, that's not a felony. But if your fines get above a certain level, or you fail to appear in court in a certain number of times, they can add a felony to it, kind of like they're adding on these charges. And of all these violations, probably 1 out of every 3 was a failure to appear violation. So they were using these violations to effectively systemically make sure that a lot of the population were considered felons and couldn't vote. Thanks for watching the video. Hope you enjoyed it. If you'd like to follow the InfoMullet, visit us on Facebook or Twitter. And if you'd like notifications when we post new video content, click on the red subscribe button below the video. If you've ever wanted to become a mulleteer and support the InfoMullet, visit us on Patreon. We appreciate the support.